Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Song Radio Show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones. And in this segment, I'm going to get into a part two on why family is basically overrated and dysfunctional. Now, there were some items that I didn't talk about in the first video. So I'm going to take up 10 to 30 minutes of time to talk about them in this video. Now, I want everybody to know that I am not talking about single mothers and single fathers. I know that might be the assumption that was made in the first video. I hear enough of that on YouTube. What I'm simply stating is that you don't date anyone who is still raising a family because their time is going into raising a family. And I said in the previous video, don't date anybody with grown kids. Well, don't date anybody who has small children either. Don't date anybody who has dependents. Now, of course, when it comes to family, you'll hear a number of men and women who have the grown kids living at home. They'll tell you, well, my grown kids and I live a different life. Makes no difference. They're still living in the house. They're still using your water. They're still using your power. They're still using your television. You're not making them pay anything toward food. They're living there free. So at the end of the day, you are still taking care of them. And I see it getting worse because you have a number of individuals who are 50, 60 years old, still giving their children handouts. Now, what I'm telling you when it comes to family, you have a lot of family members who aren't very reciprocating. And what I mean is, a family member can come and ask me for something, and I don't have any problems helping them out. But when you ask them for something, they're going to have excuses of not having anything to give you. They can't help you. And then when you give them a loan, like money, and then you ask for it back, a family member is not going to be receptive to that either. In fact, they're going to tell you any type of excuse to get out of paying you back. This is why I don't co-sign loans for kids. I don't pay kids' phone bills, car notes. Now, have I done it in the past? Absolutely. But am I a bank? No. And a number of these kids use their parents as a bank. Now, again, family members are the best way to find out how the real world is going to be, especially when relationships are established. Because one thing I can tell you about a number of women, when women are married, women always want to live around their family. The man has to get up and move away from his family, his friends. But everything is around her side, her interest. Why? Because when something happens, she can go running back. And a number of women do. They'll go run down to their mom's house. They'll complain about the relationship. They'll tell their sisters. They'll tell their brothers. In fact, you have a number of brothers that if something is exaggerated by one of the sisters or the cousins, well, the brother wants to fight. And the brother doesn't even know what happened. And at the end of the day, the brother is going to risk getting himself hurt because of a lie that his sister told. But at the end of the day, when it comes to family members, a number of men aren't even men in families. They're simps because they've been raised around a lot of women. It's okay to protect the women, but if women do not deserve protection, you don't protect them. Period. This is why I have told my own daughters, if you're going to go against something that you can't beat, you're going to take that ass whooping, especially if you start it. And I told my son that too. My dad told me that. See, the problem with family is it really isn't family. It's basically a bunch of individuals who live in one house, and the house is very dysfunctional, and you have a lot of individuals who are all over the place. They don't have any money, and they can't live on their own. Now, let me be clear on this. If there is a catastrophe, it's nothing wrong with helping family out. But for the most part, a number of family members don't appreciate it when you help them out. Let's take kids. Kids want you to constantly keep giving them and giving them and giving them, even when there are adults and they have their own children. Case in point, you have a number of women who babysit their grandchildren while their moms, the grandchild's mom, goes out to have fun. Now, there are occasions like if the mom works late, it's nothing wrong with helping. But there are too many cases where the mom is going to drop the grandchild off at the mom's house so she can go party. No, back in the days, you took that kid with you. In fact, the whole family dynamic has changed to where we have to continue to cater to our kids even when we're in our 50s and 60s. And at the end of the day, these are times we should be enjoying one another. We should not have to take care of kids. And there are a lot of kids who are revolving doors. They coming back and forth. They really never left. And then, of course, they're constantly calling the mom. And again, I'm picking on the mommies because they have the kids. Most dads would not allow that. In fact, when it comes to family, men want kids to carry that lineage, that legacy. Women, on the other hand, they're so into their family because they need something to love other than their husband. And this is a problem too. Yes, when you have children together, you take care of your children together. But if you're not making time for yourself, you're not going to know one another. And when it comes to children, the hierarchy is God, man, woman, and child. Not child, woman, man, and God. Now, of course, when you see some of these dating profiles, you see a number of women, they'll tell you, I love my family, my children are my world. And heck, as a man, some of these women are even treating their animals like they're humans. And that's a sick behavior as well. Yes, the animals are part of the household, but it is not your job to take care of a woman's kids or her animals. And it's not a woman's job to take care of your kids or your animals either, because there are guys who have that same mindset. It's a package deal. No, it's not a package deal. I didn't sign up for a package deal. But when it comes to family members, a number of family members will show you what dysfunction is, especially if you come from a big family. Now, my family is very big, and a number of my family members come from the hood of Baltimore City, and they're still living in Baltimore City, and they still live the same lifestyles that they lived before. And I don't associate with them. Why? Because they're not going anywhere in their life. They are complacent. They want to be where they are. And they have never gone anywhere. And see, here's the thing. When you have family, they'll try to trap you into being complacent by not taking risks. You see, if you want to become successful, you got to take risks. You see, a lot of old heads out here, when it comes to family, didn't teach their children about relationships. They didn't teach their children about business. They only taught their children, particularly on the black side of the house, only taught their children about getting out here, how to survive in the so-called white man's world. So they said, go to school, get an education. Because they want the children to do what they did. Because they came from a different generation. And sometimes when you have older family members, they're so out of touch, they're trying to teach the kids from their generational values. Their generational values are good, but they don't apply in this generation. Why? Because you have so much social media, so much corruption out there, so much indoctrination. Now, the way you can do that is do what Pastor Dow did. Live out in the country. Build a ministry. Grow your own food. Because the worst areas when it comes to family are in your suburbs and cities. Because kids grow up in those areas and they're materialistic. Whether they're in a welfare state or the high rent state. When you live in the suburban and urban areas, that's where you see a lot more of your selfishness, a lot more of your dysfunction, a lot more of your single parent homes, particularly in the hood. But at the end of the day, when it comes to family, I am not knocking family. What I'm simply saying is that it's not everything that you think it is. You know, a number of people want to sit there and take care of family members the rest of their life, and they have no life of their own, and they're trying to date. And when you are dealing with individuals like that, you're just going to waste your time. Because I have an acronym called MEET. MEET stands for money, emotions, energy, and time. You cannot put your time into somebody who doesn't make you a priority, but they make you an option. And usually, when you have men and women who are in their families so much, it's going to be hard for you to wife or husband that person up. And the only thing that these individuals can serve you, and it's indirectly, but the truth must be said, they're only going to be good for sex. Why? Because they don't have any time for you. Their whole life revolves around their family. And this happens because there was no teaching from the parents to the kids that you have to get out and build your own families. And see, when a man builds his own family, for the most part, he's not running back to his mama. Now, you do have a number of men today who do run back to mama. In fact, they worship mama. They believe mama can do no wrong. And even if mama is wrong, son is going to be there to protect his mama, even if he takes a bullet. And at the end of the day, when it comes to family, yes, I know blood is thicker than water. But your family is going to be the one, for the most part, to do you even more harm than individuals you don't know. Why? Because they're your relatives. And relatives believe that other relatives should help them in a time of need, even though it isn't a need. However, the reverse from the other side is, well, we'll pay you back later. Well, when you hear that term, you know you're never going to get paid back. So at the end of the day, the first place you want to start when it comes to saying no is you say no to a family member and see what kind of reaction you're going to get. Because when you start seeing the dysfunction in your family, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to saying no, when it comes to conflict, when it comes to logic, best believe that's a lesson that you need to keep for when you get out there and you actually start dating individuals that you might want to build a family with. Because when it comes to the dysfunction, your family is going to let you see the dysfunction, even if you don't know if it's dysfunction. This is why I tell you, you have to have your eyes and ears open. You talk about politics at the table, and everybody else is a Democrat. And you decide, well, you don't take on that democratic thinking. They're going to call you a traitor. They're going to call you a traitor. Why? Because you're able to think independently. You don't come with the sheep mentality, the monolithic thinking. You basically are going to be ostracized for having an independent point of view. And that is good because that shows you where your family is when it comes to you. And see, a lot of times your family is comfortable in a situation that you're not comfortable in. Let's say you want to be someone who wants to capitalize on your opportunities. Well, what a number of family members are going to do, they're going to try to shame you. They're going to try to say, well, that's not worth the risk. And if you do that, you're going to leave us. You're not going to have that much communication with us, which is all bullshit. That's just a way to keep you on that family plantation. Because the family members that you're around really have no direction. They never had direction in their lives. And that's why when you go to see them every holiday, they're still in the same place. But as a red pill man, you have to understand that the philosophy is going to cause you to lose people that you're supposed to love. But in life, you're trying to find like-minded people. Now, you're going to have some family members who understand the red pill philosophy, but a number of them aren't because they've been indoctrinated by feminism. They've been indoctrinated by what they see on TV, education, religion, media, and corporate jobs. And if you don't believe me, you look at the relationships that some of your female and male counterparts have had. Usually a number of your aunts, they're bitter women. Why are they bitter? Depending on where they were from, they've been in and out of relationships. And they're going to tell their nieces, and they're going to tell their own daughters that men ain't shit. Why? They're going to tell them that because they went with ain't shit men. And at the end of the day, they ain't shit. Then you're going to have the dudes, they're going to tell their sons that you need to have as many women as you need in order to have a variety of sexual partners. But what they're not telling you is you got to be careful for sexual or sexually transmitted diseases. See, they're not giving you the real out here. They're giving you all the fun. And then that fun turns to doom and gloom. And usually, when you have the female family members, when it comes to relationships, they're so bitter, they're going to give the nieces and their own daughters nothing but bitterness. And then when they get out there and find somebody, they're going to run into the same problems that their aunts ran into. Why? Because their aunts did not give them good advice. They gave them advice based on their own lives. And the guys. You have some guys out here who are in families, and believe it or not, this is another thing. You know, a lot of your molestation goes on by your family members. Not just by the men, but by the women as well. But going back to the guys, have a number of guys. All they did was go out and game women, charm women. They looked for sex. They were pimping. Okay, if you want to be a Mac, that's fine. If that's how you carry yourself. But when you teach your son how to do the same thing, and you teach your son how to disrespect women, and your nephews, they're going to do just that. And they're going to use women. And this is why we have a number of single mothers in the black community. Because of some of these slick talking dudes out here. They thought, I'm going to go get me a bunch of women. I'm going to be a pimp. I'm going to have sex. I'm going to have my fun with what they're doing. They make these women single mothers. And then what happens? These women are on welfare. And we taxpayers have to fund their lifestyle. But going back to what I said about molestation. A lot of this child predatorship takes place from families. In fact, in the olden days, they just swept it under the rugs. People don't tell you this. And when you have family members who have been in jail, sexually transmitted diseases get passed around to different family members because you have family members having sex with other family members. You know, I was watching a clip on Facebook back in 2014 when I was in Pennsylvania where this guy was having sex with his cousin. It was on Facebook Live. And this is why I tell individuals, stay off Facebook if you're going to put your business out there. Because people are looking at you. But going back to what I'm saying, a lot of what goes on in families we don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about the molestation and rape of men and boys. We keep that hush-hush. Why? Because you have a lot of families, even the ones who are well-to-do with money, that act like they're innocent. They're not innocent. There are a lot of people in families who are dysfunctional, and they believe they don't need help. You have a number of individuals who are constantly asking other family members for places to stay, for money. Now again, when it comes to dating, you don't want to date anybody who is raising a family because you're not part of that family and you're always going to be an outcast, whether the kids are young or whether the kids are grown. In fact, if you meet somebody, and this should be the gold standard for any man or woman, if you're a woman and you want to do something with that man and he's still raising his kids and he has his grown kids living at home, the best thing for you to do would go to a safe place like a hotel. Why? Because you don't want to take a man over to your house where something can happen to you. Now, as a man, you can bring her to your house or take her to a hotel. You basically should not be sleeping in the same house when a woman has children living in that house, whether they're grown or whether they're young. Why? Because if the children don't like you, they can always say that you tried to do something to them. And we live in a Me Too era, and at the end of the day, there's no due process, but accusation is always going to fall on the side of the woman. And it's going to always fall on the side, too, of some boys, because you have a number of boys who are getting raped and molested as well. And you have a number of these mothers out here who are dating, and the boyfriend is hitting up on the daughter. He's only there with you so he can get to your daughter or your son. You have a lot of perverts out here. So when it comes to dating, I don't advise any man or any woman to date someone who cannot put you first. Why? Because you are wasting your time. Why should you put all your effort into a relationship where the other person is going to constantly benefit. If individuals can't come by to see you and they have an excuse to make, and family members do that, they want you to always call them and come by. But if they can't do that for you, then you don't deal with them. And like I said, what I am explaining to you when it comes to family is this. What you see going on with your own family is going to give you an indication that when you deal with people out there, they come from the same type of family. And every family has drama. Some hide it better than others, but you will see the dysfunction. I know I see it in my own family with my sister. Not going to put her name out there. And sometimes, as an independent thinker, you got to stay away from even your own family. Why? Because they're not going to do anything but tear you down. You want to be around people who are going to build you up. In fact, you can create your own circle. Now, it's not legitimately a family, but you can create people that you can trust and they have a like mind and they're going in your same direction. Because, again, when it comes to family, a number of family members, they're users. They want to use you for your money. They want to use you for your house. They want to use you for your car. But they don't want to pay anything into helping you when you need help. Because their lives are so screwed up, these family members are running from family member to family member just to survive. And you have some of these family members who have kids, again, living at home. Kids aren't doing anything, playing video games. But the kids can come and go as adults, but they don't have to be responsible adults. So they get the benefit of being a kid and an adult at the same time. That's the parents' fault, particularly the mother's fault. And this is why I'm saying, when it comes to family, family is overrated. It's not what you think it is. A number of us have families so we can keep our lineage going, so we can keep our legacy going. But when you have kids, you got to teach them how to have families. And if you teach kids, your own kids, how to have families, how to leave the nest, then you can have free time. I see so many women, and you have a number of men out here too, but I see it more with the women who are in the 50s and 60s, and they're still taking care of their grown-ass kids and their elderly parents. And what happens? These are the ones who want to date, and they want to date people like me because people like me have free time. But they become a nuisance because their life really doesn't include me. I'm just there to eliminate their loneliness. Their whole life revolves around their family, and they're using me, or I'm just using me as an example, they're using me as an escape route. Because at the end of the day, it's just like back in the days when women used to watch Oprah. Oprah would come on for an hour just to make them feel good, and after Oprah is over, the women would go back to the same poor life they had before Oprah came on. So when you deal with individuals who say their family is first, their kids are their world, their kids are their life, you got to ask yourself, where are you going to fit in that equation? And if the answer is you'll fit right in, then you deal with that person. But if it's no, you don't deal with that person. Because time is of the essence. And when you have family members out here who all they think about is what's in their best interest, and they're using other family members to satisfy themselves, there's a problem. That's where the dysfunction is. Now again, when I talk about dating, men and women, don't date anybody who's still raising a family. And if you're in your 50s and 60s and you see that a man or woman is still taking care of their kids, don't date that person either. Because if you marry that person, that's going to be money that's going from your relationship to your kids. See, if you teach your kids again how to have husbands and wives, they create their own resources. But a number of these mothers out here and some dads keep their kids around so they won't be alone. You should be able to live alone because you can make better decisions, because you'll find out who you really are. And at the end of the day, I'm not knocking family. I'm just giving you the raw truth on what happens if you constantly depend on family. They're not always going to be there for you. It's a fact. But many of us love our families. It's good. But I can't love somebody who's not loving me back. And you can't trust every family member, because a number of family members will rob you blind. But when it comes to family, just want to put this out here. Do not be afraid to say no. If they get upset, they get upset. Because as a man, you take care of you. Your family members, some of them aren't around when you need help. And then when you need help, they don't want to help you. They make all the excuses in the world not to help you. So, as a person, like I would say, as a rule for dating, don't make anybody a priority when they only make you an option. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be frustrated, and it's going to be a lose-lose proposition. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And check out my other channel, The Mind of STEM, where I'm giving you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And check out my Blog Talk radio show, and it's on every weekend. I did Lucifer's Daughter. Check that out. And again, thank you for listening. That's this video. Once again, my name is Leon Jones. You have a wonderful and blessed day, and I'm out.